Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Lagos Youth Show on Lagos Television. And of course, in case you don't know, this is that one show where all the vibes and energy of every young Lagosian meets. And trust me, this is the show that every young person in Lagos State shouldn't miss for any reason. And of course, as usual, we promise to always give you back to back of education and entertainment here on Lagos Television. My name is Tosin Ikuyiminu. Hold on a bit. I know I almost got you off guard there. But interestingly, on this episode, I will be your solo host. I think I deserve a round of applause anyway. So that'll be nice. That'll be nice. Trust me, it's going to be an episode filled with a lot of fun and learning as we'll be having a guest join us. But the next time you see me on the screen, I'm going to be giving you a short hint of what our topic of discussion will be on today's episode. So stay with me as we go on a quick break. Peace. Hello, yes, it's still the Lagos Youth Show, and like I told you, our guest just joined in with us on the show. Interestingly, on the topic, how youth are redefining culture, values, and identity into this fast-changing world. I mean, no better person would be in the position to have this kind of beautiful conversation with here in the studio. And our guest is no other person but Mr. Mubarak Bakari. He's an entrepreneur and a model. And interestingly, with what I was able to take from his profile, he's one of the tallest model in Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And I mean, the height says it all. It's great to have you,
Pleasure.
Mubarak.
Thank you very much.
It's
Pleased
fantastic.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Great outfit, by the way.
I know. Before you critique me, we're still learning from people like you anyway.
Right.
It's great to have you. Now, let's just go into the topic of discussion. I know that culture over time has evolved, particularly when it comes to young people in today's world. So I would like to get your understanding of what culture is to you and how you've been able to express it in the fullest in your own way.
Correct. Thank you very much once again for having me.
Yeah.
It's of utmost pleasure.
Yeah.
Talk about culture, I think I would go by the most interesting, or shall I say, the foremost definition of culture I heard, while I was pretty young, back in the days in school, is simply the way of life. How what you eat, what you drink, how you talk, the dialect you speak, the song you dance to, the song you actually even sing, So all of this together brings about what your culture is, that's what it is,
beautiful.
ultimately.
So it's summation, it has everything linked to how, your way of life,
holistic.
expression.
Correct.
So from your angle, how have you been able to carve a niche for yourself? Because looking at your profile,
Correct.
From your ambassadorial role, to being a model, all of the things you've done has one way or the other connected to your expression of who you are and
Correct.
your origin and where
Correct.
you've been. So how well have you been able to, use yourself as an identity, as a brand, to be able to push out the African, Nigerian, and Lagos story?
And otherwise,
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty unique one. Something I'd never seen. Which was fusing modeling, culture, art, even tourism. And in recent time, business. So what I did was leverage my unique status as a model,
Okay.
to promote the African culture.
Okay.
Whilst incorporating art, tourism as well as business in recent time.
Okay.
So I think that in itself is very unique, being able to fuse all of this together. And, I've experienced a very interesting transition as well, evolved over time. Just to for example, talk about the art side of things. I was an enthusiast of, in the art space, promoting the culture, the African culture, as well as art. But over time, I transcended, as far back as 2019, I was endorsed by the largest art gallery in West Africa.
Oh, beautiful.
And then a couple years down the line, I started off the enterprising way, evolved into the enterprise. Now have a business out of that, beyond just being an enthusiast or just promoting the arts, but now to set up an organization called Bilateral. And the vanguard of endeavor, the Bilateral is it's a unique, and shall I say, a dynamic platform, that where we promote and showcase and propagate art from Africa and the diaspora.
Beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about tech, because I've seen all of the amazing things you've been doing.
Right.
And, there are a lot of conversations around social media, to be specific now.
Correct.
Around it's the time for Africa, Afrobeat is everywhere,
Right.
and it's beyond just Afrobeat. It's almost like you go, even when you travel to the UK, you travel to the US, you travel to other parts of the Western world, you see Africans representing themselves there, and other people representing Africa there. And you will see our food. Like, I mean, in UK, you see amala joints in the UK.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, you see our traditional dish right there. So it's looking like one way or the other, technology, which is the advent of social media and digital media, has given us that leverage to be able to push our voice out there. And it's not just helping our brands, it's also helping our businesses and all of us. So I would really like to hear your angle to how has technology helped you first positioning your brand, an African brand, out there to the world, and also for your business.
I think I take this from an holistic standpoint, which is that the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, which we are currently, has transitioned and transcended a lot of things. You know, so it's been a very interesting tool. You know, talk about the tech, and it's in every single ramification of our lives. If you look at it, so. You look at the advent of digital currencies, you know, we now spend digital currencies ultimately. Talk about the Bitcoins of this world, the Solanas of this world, the, what's it called? You know, basically the blockchain technology and otherwise. So it's been a really interesting one, I would say. And social media precisely as well as really contributed to immensely to the development, of every single aspect of our lives as people of African descent and the world at large. You know, I talk about myself precisely. It is actually, without no doubt, it is boosted, not just my own personal brand alone, but of course all my other enterprises as well. And it has also completely helped, in having cross-border, or shall I say, international relationships.
As well.
Ultimately, I have associates all across the world who I've never met before, who we literally even met on social media platforms, or social media engines and whatnot. So this, and I'm talking people we exchange values, even some foreign currencies and whatnot, but you never met them before. But of course it translates, you've been able to communicate, you've been able to exchange correspondence. Look at the advent of, during the, during the pandemic, in 2020, look at the advent of, several different webinars, it became the order of the day. You don't need to necessarily be enclosed in the same area when to do symposiums and whatnot. You could literally do it on the digital space. Isn't that amazing? And then look at where we are right now, in the studio, we're recording. This is pretty much, no doubt, a testament, to the greatness of technology.
So let's go on a lighter note, because we're getting too professional here. But I mean, let's look at it. The tallest model in sub-Saharan Africa. How has that been? Because when I saw the height, I was like, oh my God. I was really expecting, but I mean, it meets my expectation. How has that been for you? What did that come with? All right, and for your brand and for your experience.
So basically, it's about, like you said, it's obvious. As far back as 2016, thereabout, I was literally about the same height with the tallest model in the world at the time. That was how that came about. But of course, it's been a great feeling. I mean, being this tall is a fantastic feeling, I must say. It's one of the greatest feelings in the world. And of course, that is a uniqueness, to be literally standing at about 6 feet 9 inches is pretty rare. You'd agree with me. in a world of about 8 billion people, it's pretty
hard deal
to see 2% of the world, as tall as that. But for me, that has never been the ultimate. As a matter of fact, I know for sure that has made me very charismatic, but at the same time, or shall I say on the flip side, I've decided, and I took it as a point of duty, not to make everything about me revolve around that.
That, beautiful.
So I've set out to be as impactful as I could be, ultimately.
Okay,
right.
fantastic. So let's just go on a quick break. Yes, we still have Bakare with us, and the conversation will continue. Yes, it's still the Lagos Youth Show, and of course, we still have Mubarak Bakare with us in the studio. So let's just go back straight to it. There's something really interesting that really caught my attention about your profile, and that is your experience with the African Fashion Week, London, and a couple of other international platforms that you've been privileged to be part of as a model. All right.
Correct.
So my question is how, I'm just curious, are we really sure that these international platforms are really giving that opportunity for African, Nigerian, and Lagos story to be out there? Are they really pushing the African narrative as much as it should be?
Correct. So thank you very much for referencing those endeavor. And the answer is, of course, yes.
Okay.
The Africa Fashion Week London that you mentioned, we did a very interesting project, in 2020. This was during the
post-COVID.
Literally the post-COVID era, basically. And it was a fantastic project that literally targeted African indigenous fabric. But I literally produced, the project. It was a fashion documentary film, in collaboration with the World Fashion, the Africa Fashion Week London, as well as the Sustainable Fashion Week in New York, as well as a collaboration with the states, basically. It was in Oyo State. I beg your pardon. Kwara State and Ekiti State. So we were highlighting the Ashoke.
Beautiful.
The traditionally woven indigenous African fabric. We literally documented a number of the finest weavers, in the States, and they took us on a journey of how they actually produce, from the scratch to the finished. From weaving to a completely made outfit, basically. Fantastic. From Ashoke. And then the interesting thing that pretty much actually resonates with what we're discussing today, with the theme, or shall I say the topic we're discussing today, is the fact that even though these are indigenous fabrics, they've been used to actually craft master garments or masterpieces of garments that are urban, that are that are urban centric in a way. So this is it was a very interesting project. It was a very interesting project.
So so project like that are already helping to push the African narrative.
Absolutely.
And it's beautiful to see African being recognized at the global space. Global space. So
apologies sorry to interject you, but I was going to also mention, because you pertaining to how or the question you asked, which is about international platforms and how they are, putting some spotlight on the African continent and our culture and our tradition and otherwise, our fashion and the likes. I happen to also be a goodwill ambassador to the World Fashion Exhibition.
Oh, wow.
And the World Fashion Exhibition for the next couple years has decided to actually focus on Africa.
Wow.
In fact, the theme for the next couple years is Africa is now. And truly, Africa is now. You know, the World Fashion Exhibition is a platform, it's a global platform, of course, that actually focuses on sustainability, you know, in the fashion industry, you know, also driving a couple, shall I say, social issues, you know, pretty much, in fact, donating to some causes like the female genital mutilation, as well as child and maternal health care. You know, they actually preach against child mortality as well. So these are wonderful initiatives that are actually shedding light or the spotlight on the African continent.
Beautiful.
You know, there was an exhibition that held in Shanghai, you know, I mean, the World Fashion Exhibition, and one of the most interesting highlights was actually designers from Zimbabwe.
Beautiful.
So there's a lot more now, more than ever. And you also referenced what is happening with the, you know, uprising of the Afrobeats. You know, it's everywhere in the world. You know, people go bonkers when they hear the sound. Ultimately, all across the world, So it's a whole new down.
It's a whole new down for Africa, and I mean, it's time for Africa. It's our time. We have to utilize it. Right. So, in few words, Bakari, I know there are many young people out there, you know, looking for the best way to express their identity as an African, as Nigerian, as Lagosians, either through entertainment, through art, through modeling, or what have you. What are your advice to these young persons that are looking for a way to find their voice, at the same time represent the brand, the culture, and, you know, the energy, the vibe? Call Africa.
I think that's a very interesting question and a very impactful one at that, for people who would listen. You know, it is a fork in the road for our essence as people of African descent. And as such, it is important. The first thing I would recommend is for us to know ourselves. Like they say, man, know thyself. It is until you know who you are, in essence, that you would then be able to leverage that and then be able to merge the advent of what is going on in the world today, you know, of globalization, or shall I say, ultimately, if you are not aware, if you're not conscious, if you're not conscious of your cultural identity, it is going to be hard for you not to be westernized. You know, if you look at what's happening in the world today, there are a whole lot of Africans who are already westernized. But at the same time, there is also a very upward shift or move in people who are embracing their identity as well. Even it extends to the diaspora. You know, I personally know a lot of African descent who are in the diaspora, who are connecting back to the motherland. You know, in fact, I know a couple people who's made it a point of duty to come home, you know, at least once every single year, some multiple times. You know, some are even getting into several different business enterprise here. So that being said, to not deviate too much, it is important for us to know who we are first. That is the first step to it. Then, until then, before we could then go on to leverage who we are, you know, and you know, there would be a very perfect synergy. Or there, shall I say, an harmony, you know, between knowing who you are and then, of course, making some kind of a fusion from the modern day world, basically.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bakari. I mean, it's been an amazing session. I personally learned a lot from, you know, the global perspective to the angles to how you come through for us through the sessions, and I'm sure a large number of us learned a lot from Bakari's session. It's great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I hope to return to have more conversations.
Definitely. All right. So, still on the Lagos Youth Show. We'll be right back as we'll be wrapping up the show. it's still the Lagos Youth Show. I mean, lots and lots of insight from the global perspective, from African culture to identity, representation, and what have you. We've learned a lot from our guests today, and trust me, it was an exceptional one. I mean, my key take-home from today's conversation is the fact that it is time for Africa, it is time for the young people, all right? And it is our time to take the bull by the horn, represent, and never in any way forget our roots. At the same time, push the deepest part of ourselves. And another key thing I took from that is know thyself, for it is the beginning of all wisdom. One of the ways you'll be able to position yourself better is when you know the uniqueness of yourself and you align that with the fusion of what is happening in today's world. So a lot of that are part of the key take home from today's session episode. And trust me, this is something we should be looking out for. And wrapping up today's show, it has been an awesome experience, and I am rest assured that we had one or two key important take-homes. And with regards to that, let's not let the conversation end here. Stay tuned with us, follow and engage us on our social media platforms at the Lagos Youth Show on Facebook and Instagram. Same official Lagos Television on Facebook and Instagram, so we can keep up the conversation. Wrapping up the show, let's put it this way. Your culture, your identity have everything to do with yourself and how you position yourself at the end of the day. My name is Tosin Ikuyemino, and it's been an awesome experience. Stay loud, stay vibe, and stay jiggy. Peace.